Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are zeroing in on a really interesting mental health tool, guided meditation. There's a growing body of science behind it, and we've gathered sources looking specifically at, its role in managing depression and just improving overall emotional health. So our mission here, pretty straightforward. Cut through the noise for you. We want to pull out the core science, give you practical, actionable tips if you want to try it, and really importantly, talk about the caveats. Where does this fit?
Exactly. And that context is so vital because, well, we're talking about depression, which, as we know, is this really pervasive thing. Persistent low mood, low energy, that loss of interest. And while, standard treatments like therapy and meds are effective for many, the sources are clear. They don't work for everyone. So that gap is why exploring complementary tools, things like guided meditation, is just so important.
Okay, let's define our terms then. Guided meditation, or GM. How is it different from, say, just sitting quietly? It's basically a structured mindfulness practice, right? Where you've got a narrator, a teacher, someone actively leading you through steps.
Yeah, that guidance seems key. The guide directs your focus using specific things like breathing exercises, maybe visualizations, or those body scans to help you relax. And getting access now is, well, super easy. Apps, videos online, even live sessions.
Right, and if you contrast that with silent meditation, the structure GM provides is, I think, really helpful, especially for beginners. Or, like we're focusing on today, for someone dealing with depression. That unstructured silence, it can actually be quite tough if you're struggling with focus or negative thoughts.
So that structure isn't just about making it easy, it's actually addressing a core issue.
Precisely. Silent meditation asks you to generate the focus. But if concentration is low, if mood is really down, that's a big ask. GM gives the mind something concrete to follow, like a pathway. Some sources even call it a kind of training crutch. It offers immediate focus. A training crutch. I like that framing. So why is that structure so vital, especially at the start? Because it's not just about emptying the mind, is it? It feels more disciplined.
Exactly. It's not about emptiness. It's more about learning to manage your relationship with your thoughts. The structure helps because it kind of interrupts that automatic negative thinking, that internal chatter that often fuels depression. It's like a cognitive pattern interrupt.
Okay, that leads us right into the mechanism. How does this actually help the brain, especially when stuck in those negative loops? What's the science say is happening?
The sources point to a few key things. First, the focus on breath and relaxation helps regulate the body's stress response. It literally helps slow things down in the brain. Second, and this is maybe the core of it, it teaches what's called non-judgmental observation.
Hold on, non-judgmental observation. That sounds simple, but also really hard. How does just observing thoughts without judging them help with something like depression? Why is judgment the problem?
Well, judgment is what turns a fleeting thought into something sticky, into rumination. Depression often involves a lot of self-criticism. So you have a thought like, I'm failing. Then the judgment kicks in, I shouldn't think this, or this proves I'm weak. That deepens the spiral. Guided practice helps you label it, a thought about failing, and just let it drift by. It weakens the emotional punch, breaks the link between the thought and the negative feeling that follows.
Right, so it's about changing the relationship to the thought, not necessarily stopping the thought itself. Oh, that's powerful. And this isn't just theory, right? The research shows actual results.
Absolutely. Clinical trials, reviews, they confirm that regular GM practice can significantly reduce depression symptoms. It leads to better mood, better emotional control, and importantly, the sources highlight its role in long-term recovery, helping prevent relapse. But and this is a key point from the research, it's not instant. The really significant results, especially for preventing relapse, tend to show up after about 8 weeks or even more of consistent daily practice. It takes commitment.
8 weeks. Okay, that's good for you listeners to know. It's an investment, but there's a research-backed time frame. Speaking of commitment and structure, some approaches really formalize this, right? Like Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy, or MBCT. So MBCT basically combines that core guided meditation practice with tools from standard talk therapy, like CBT, an integrated approach.
Exactly. MBCT's goal isn't just relaxation, it's explicitly teaching skills. Skills to handle difficult thoughts and emotions proactively, to stop them escalating into a full depressive episode. And honestly, one of the most striking findings in the sources was about its effectiveness. Studies suggest MBCT doesn't just reduce symptoms and relapse risk, but in some cases, it might actually work better than certain standard maintenance treatments for depression.
Whoa, hang on. Better than some standard treatments. That's huge, especially for something that doesn't involve medication.
It really underscores that depression involves habitual thought patterns, not just brain chemistry. Giving people concrete tools to interrupt those patterns, like MBCT does, is incredibly empowering, especially for preventing relapse, catching those early warning signs.
That really does reframe things. Okay, let's widen the lens a bit. Even if you listening aren't dealing with clinical depression, these practices seem to have benefits for just general mental well-being, right?
Oh, definitely. The sources talk about the classic benefits, reducing general anxiety, lowering stress levels, things most people could use help with.
Yeah, and improved sleep quality comes up too,
Yeah.
which is foundational. Plus better focus.
And overall emotional resilience, building that mental muscle, that capacity to bounce back, that's useful for everyone.
And then there's the really fascinating biological stuff. The idea that this practice might actually change the brain physically.
Yeah, it's compelling evidence for neuroplasticity. Long-term meditation practice seems linked to improved memory and, incredibly, increases in gray matter volume, specifically in brain areas tied to emotional regulation and self-awareness.
Wow, so the simple act of like listening to an app and noticing your thoughts could lead to measurable structural changes in your brain. That's kind of mind-blowing thinking about personal agency.
It shifts the idea from just coping to potentially, well, rewiring. Neural renovation, as you put it earlier.
Okay, which brings us nicely to the practical side. For you listening, how do you actually start this without it feeling like another chore? Let's make this actionable. Okay, first tip from the sources. Start small. Really small, like 5 or 10 minutes a day. Consistency beats duration, especially at first. Second, try to find a reasonably quiet space. Minimize distractions as best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect.
And third, use the available resources. Apps like Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer get mentioned a lot, or even free stuff on YouTube. Just be mindful of the content. Look for sessions focused on things like emotional balance, relaxation, self-compassion, maybe specifically for mood, if that feels right for you.
Right, and remembering that 8-week finding daily consistency is really the goal. Make it a habit.
Okay, now, really important, the safety and limitations part. Because GM is non-invasive, very few side effects, it's generally seen as safe and often beneficial to use alongside standard treatments. Therapy, medication, it can complement those really well. But, and this is the crucial warning, it is not a cure-all. It's a tool, a support. It absolutely should not replace professional treatment unless you've explicitly discussed it with your doctor or therapist and made that decision together. It's best used as a complement.
Good point. And the field is still evolving.
Mm-hmm.
We need more research on long-term effects and how well it works for different types of depression.
Absolutely. And one final critical safety note. If you are dealing with severe mental illness or if you're in an active crisis right now, please, your first step should always be contacting a doctor or a mental health professional. Get that clinical support sorted out first before starting any new practice like this. Safety first.
So wrapping this up, the core takeaway from our deep dive seems to be this. Guided meditation is a legit, science-backed tool for mental health. Its structure helps you learn that key skill observing thoughts without judgment. It works best with consistency, remember that 8-week benchmark. And it shines as a complement to professional care, not a substitute.
And maybe one final thought for you to consider, building on what we discussed. We talked about that research suggesting long-term practice might physically increase gray matter in emotional centers of the brain. So if the simple intentional act of observing and regulating your own thoughts can lead to actual measurable changes in your brain's structure, how might reflecting on that connection between mental effort and physical change shift how you view your own potential for growth and adaptation throughout your life? It's quite something to think about, that link between mental discipline and physical form.
Really fascinating stuff. Something to definitely mull over. Take this knowledge, perhaps give it a consistent try, and see what happens. That's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.